Law and order. Many political candidates run on the promise of law and order, which is often a very successful political tactic. As Christians, we are obligated by faith to uphold justice in every aspect of our lives. Upholding justice in our lives is not only important for being a missionary because it is a spiritual thing that God commands us to do, but also because it builds trust with other people. Most people won't listen to you about aspects of religion or about your faith in God if they think that you're an untrustworthy person who's just trying to get another number for their cause. They're much more likely to listen to you if they know that you're an honorable, honest, decent person and that you've built a friendship with them. And friendships can be hurt by dishonesty and injustice. So being a just person and following justice is a very important aspect of being a missionary. Now, in today's modern culture, the idea of justice has kind of been perverted by those on the left and some on the right as well. On the left, you have social justice, right, which comes from a sort of Marxist worldview. And then on the right, you have almost like a rejection of justice as a true principle and more of like a absolute pragmatism. Whatever gets us there is good. Today, I'm going to be going into what is justice, what is the church's view on justice, and how can we as Catholic missionary disciples uphold justice in our lives. Stay tuned. Social justice is a leftist idea that justice is the redistribution of power and resources to correct historical and systemic inequalities. This can come in lots of different ways. For instance, reparations for the descendants of slaves, communism, DEI programs in schools and the economy. Really, it comes down to taking from those who have and giving to those who have not, regardless of the nuance or the specifics of the circumstance. Social justice was a term commonly used in the 2010s era, which quickly became a mocking point by conservatives. And so it's kind of shifted into the 2020s. Now it's kind of more known as being woke, right? Wokeness is the idea, but even that's kind of phasing out. There's always a constant sort of rebranding of these terms to kind of obfuscate what they mean. Now, the second view of justice in this culture is a sort of like heartless pragmatism. And you see a lot of this on the right, which is basically this idea that, oh, everything is essentially lost and we need to really fight back. We're so far behind on the culture war. So really we need to discard all sorts of law and order and justice and norms and really just do whatever is necessary to advance our political agenda. This could look like targeting your political opponents with harassment and violence, maybe using like lawfare against those you disagree with, causing unnecessary wars to benefit your country or another country at the expense of peace and human dignity, or even violating the rights of citizens to further a political agenda. The main idea is that everything done that furthers an interest that we believe in is justified. Now, forms of both of these ideas can be found on the left and on the right. But really, we need to be looking not to the left or the right, but really to the Lord Jesus Christ on the cross. So what does the church teach about what true justice is? Well, justice is one of the four cardinal virtues and is defined as the constant and firm will to give their due to God and neighbor. In other words, justice is giving God and others what they deserve. When Jesus was in Jerusalem, he taught, "Give to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that were God." This teaching implies that human beings are owed certain things and that God is owed certain things, and that justice is really just making sure that we are giving everybody what they are owed, either good or bad, depending on the circumstance. In the context of the law of the country, the church teaches that legitimate authority is necessary for maintaining order and promoting the common good. St. Paul writes of this very subject in his letter to the Romans. Let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, he who resists the authorities resists what God has appointed, and those who resist will incur judgment. For rulers are not a terror to good conduct, but to bad. Would you have no fear of him who is in authority? Then do what is good, and you will receive his approval, for he is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain. He is a servant of God to execute his wrath on the wrongdoer. Therefore, one must be subject, not only to avoid God's wrath, but also for the sake of conscience. Now, while Christians should generally follow law, especially just laws, there are notable exceptions to the rule. When a law contradicts human dignity and the general good, it is a bad law, and obedience to God's unchanging law supersedes our duty as law-abiding citizens. When the apostles were arrested by the Jewish authorities for preaching the gospel, the following interaction occurred. And when they had brought them, they set them before the council, and the high priest questioned them, saying, "We strictly charged you not to teach in this name. Yet here you have filled Jerusalem with your teaching, and you intend to bring this man's blood upon us." But Peter and the apostles answered, "We must obey God rather than men. We are never obligated to deny our conscience or the faith for the sake of law. It is moral to resist oppressive laws and seek to change laws to reflect what God wants. For example, Christians should fight against abortion because although the law permits it, abortion kills the innocent, and that is an affront to human dignity. The question then arises how we Christians are to seek political change. Many today on the far left and the far right say that violence is permitted to achieve a certain political goal and their idea of justice. However, the church fundamentally disagrees. Jesus commands all Christians to be peacemakers, regardless of the cause we seek peace for. It isn't permissible for us to violently overthrow our countries to enact some political change or use violence against political rivals. In Jesus' words, all who take the sword will perish by the sword. We must temper our love for justice with charity, meaning that while wrongs must be addressed, forgiveness and reconciliation are also a part of the Christian vision of order. So what can we do to bring justice into our world? The church teaches that upholding justice is not just the job of the government. Every Christian has a role in working towards the common good through work, family, politics, and community involvement. This might look like rejecting corruption, speaking out against injustice, advocating for laws that uphold human dignity, paying back your debts, being honest in big and small matters, and seeking to solve conflicts in fair ways. My challenge for you this week is to reflect on what influence you have at this point in your life and think about how can you advance God's justice in this world. Goodbye and God bless you.